Good morning. The last time I spoke with you in this format, I had our golden retriever puppy Moose in my lap. And even though that was but a few weeks ago, he now weighs 37 pounds. So it did not seem that it would be edifying either for him or for me or for you to contend with that much dog at this time. Thank you for tuning in to this first virtual annual meeting of St. Mary's. Technically, of course, it's not an annual meeting because canonical law, the laws of the church, demand that we meet in person for an annual meeting of the parish. Thus, that meeting will be delayed until sometime in the fall, hopefully. I just want to say a word of thanks to Stuart Davis, our senior warden, who will follow me, and to Deb Gandy, our treasurer, who in turn will follow him. That leadership embodied in those two people, representative of the leadership of the vestry and the finance committee, of the staff, the clergy, all of you have made enormous contributions to the life of this parish. But I am particularly indebted to Deb and to Stuart for modeling what it means to stand tall in a difficult time. I also want to share with you that we're not quite sure about the process by which we will be able to reopen church and regather. There was a big meeting by Zoom yesterday with the Right Reverend Susan Goff, our bishop, in which she reminded us that the only basis for our reopening will be love. That it is only when the most vulnerable amongst us are protected that we will take a risk of coming back together. Yes, we'll follow the guidelines of the governor, but finally we will follow the law of love as made clear in Jesus Christ, our Lord. We have a lot to be grateful for, a lot of blessings, even in this time of enormous anxiety and uncertainty. This is the first year in my 36 years as rector of St. Mary's that we chose to run a deficit budget. We did so intentionally, we did so purposefully, we did so knowing that it was the right thing to do this year. That said, I think that next year is uncertain, and I think that changes are coming. I don't know what they'll look like, but I ask your prayers about them as well. I also want to say how delighted I am that on the 1st of June we'll be joined by two new clergy, the Reverend Sarah Palmer and the Reverend Pete Nunley, and how exciting the energy and ideas and new possibilities and viewpoints that they'll bring to our life together. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think we're in a time where we must discern to the best of our ability how best we will be church on the other side of this pandemic. Because I think there is no going back. I think that the witness of the Episcopal Church, the witness of St. Mary's, must only get clearer and stronger, because I do not see an easy way forward in the life of the world, even when a vaccine comes about, even when social distancing takes a new form and a new format. So, just to say, lots of blessings, lots of worries, just like everybody else, but I think we have every reason to believe that we will continue to be a beacon of hope. I think that we have every reason to believe that we'll be a community that really does try to care for one another and to care for our neighbor near and far. So thank you for tuning in for this short time together, and look forward to hearing what Stuart and Deb have to say.
As with everything else, the pandemic has fundamentally changed things up for us on the vestry. We've been Zoom meeting weekly during this time with a focus on how do we maintain our safety, how do we strengthen our community, all the while staying true to our core values and our understanding of who we are as a parish family. During this time, we've decided on three major items. First, today was supposed to be the last day on the vestry for Elizabeth Hale, Nicole Imus, and me as we completed our 3-year terms. We have an excellent slate of candidates who will stand for election when we can return, but it is neither fair to them nor logistically feasible to vote in a new class until we can meet in person at the parish meeting. I am truly grateful for Elizabeth and Nicole's continued service to this parish. Second, though we're not receiving any plate income, and we are still unsure of the pandemic's effect on our parishioners' ability to fulfill their 2020 pledges, we have committed to our clergy and our staff that their jobs and compensation are safe through the end of this year. This reflects who we are as a congregation, and we all have been amazed at how well and how hard the staff and clergy have worked to help us keep church during this trying time. Third, we have authorized $80,000 from what we have already collected as part of the Funding the Future campaign for emergency COVID relief. The parish has granted $55,000 to local organizations that we know well and who serve an important and expanding mission in this time of need. These organizations are the Arlington Free Clinic, AFAC, Arlington Thrive, ASPAN, and the Colmore Clinic. This leaves a reserve of $25,000 for continued pandemic relief. We will still have more than $300,000 of the outreach tithe that we want to dedicate to create systemic change, but we felt it was imperative to respond to the needs that we see right in front of us right now. Now, as an underpinning to these three decisions, let me make two observations. First, our long heritage of being fiscally conservative has helped us in 2020, but we should not assume that our financial future will allow things to remain the same, and that includes staffing levels. I believe that we will emerge this year as a very strong parish, but the fact is that many churches will struggle and parishioners hurt by the pandemic may be less able to give. Second, although we didn't plan it this way, the pandemic crisis has shown the wisdom of the Funding the Future campaign. We are in a stronger position to weather the storm, and the money we raised has allowed us to respond in ways that we otherwise would not have been able to do. Now, thinking about our future, we still have as many questions as we do answers, but we will remain focused on Christ and driven by our commitment to worship, outreach, family, and care. Now, I'm sure that things will be different in ways that we don't yet fully understand, and I know we will need to work together to respond to God's call to us. We're now looking at ways to open the church safely. One specific action that we're taking is to expedite the investments in technology that we had contemplated in the Funding the Future campaign, but now take on more urgency as a means to enable fellowship and community, even when we practice social distancing. Now, in closing, I want to note what a privilege it has been to serve as your senior warden. I could not have made it through this year without the steadfast support of the vestry, and I could not be more proud of them. That said, I'm just as proud of how this congregation has stood tall and stood together throughout this trying time. Thank you, and God bless you.
I am pleased to present the annual financial report to the parish. I would be remiss if I did not start by thanking Janet Tasker, our finance manager, and the members of the Finance Committee for their dedication and commitment in overseeing our financial affairs. Let me begin with the 2019 operating results. Pledge income received was $1.96 million, which included $188,000 in prepaid pledges for 2020. Operating income was $1.7 million after our outreach allocation. Operating expenses were $1.4 million. This resulted in a net surplus for the year of $246,000. As is our practice, we contributed 25% of our 2019 pledge and plate income to outreach for a total of $477,000. Of that, $257,000 went to our outreach efforts at St. Mary's, and $220,000 went to the Diocese of Virginia. As you know, we ran a very successful Funding the Future campaign last year, and we raised over $4 million in pledges. The funds will be used for church maintenance over the next 5 to 10 years, renovations and updates to the church buildings, completing the organ, paying off the rectory mortgage, purchasing a van for parish use, and of course, a 10% tithe to outreach. At year end, we had already received almost $1 million of the amount pledged. Turning to our 2020 operating budget, our annual giving appeal was run concurrent with the capital campaign, which resulted in pledge income for 2020 of $1.76 million, a decline compared to recent years. As a result, for the first time in recent memory, our operating budget projects a deficit for 2020. Specifically, the 2020 operating budget anticipates operating income of $1.5 million after allocating $455,000 for outreach, offset by operating expenses of $1.6 million. We believe in balanced budgets, and it was after considerable discussion that the vestry approved this year's budget, projecting a net deficit of $163,000. As previously mentioned, St. Mary's ran a very successful capital campaign concurrent with our annual giving appeal. It was ultimately felt that the combined effort had a downward impact on annual operating pledges for 2020, making it a one-time occurrence. Obviously, our current situation with the coronavirus and the stay-at-home orders we are all currently working under will have an impact on our financial results for the year that may well increase the budget deficit. Fortunately, we have always been fiscally conservative and have built up sufficient reserves that should allow us to weather whatever we are faced with this year. Our stewardship appeal for 2021 will be a strong measure of whether this year is an anomaly or a basic shift in the finances of the parish. In addition, we successfully applied for and received an SBA Paycheck Protection Program loan that provides funds for 8 weeks of payroll and selected operating expenses. As long as the proceeds of this loan are used for these specific purposes, we can request forgiveness of the loan balance. These funds will provide a needed boost to the church's financial results. The church continues to be in a strong cash position with over $2 million in operating funds and has reaped the benefits of the restructured cash management approach adopted several years ago. Annual interest and dividend income increased again in 2019 to $51,167 compared to $38,207 in 2018. However, we don't know what the future will bring and need to monitor and assess the overall financial position and operations of the parish as we move forward into a new and different post-virus world. I encourage you to please continue to pay your pledges, whether online or by sending a check to the parish office. Until we can worship together in person again, I pray that you and your families stay safe and well. Thank you.